like the blueprint of what a sports car should be. Front engine, rear wheel drive, lightweight, responsive and communicative chassis, and limitless modding capabilities. This thing is the whole package. Now I know why everybody loves these things.
I gave you my heart.
This is the 1994 Nissan 180SX with a Silvia front end. It's known as a Sileighty or Sileighty. I'm probably butchering that name. And today, thanks to Northeast Auto Imports, I have this vehicle for the day to try to tell you exactly what it is. This 180SX is available for sale, and I'll include a link down in the description so you can check it out and share it with your JDM drifty friends. But now, we're gonna jump right into it. The Nissan's respected S chassis is legendary to this day. Its lightweight, tossable, and communicative nature make it a cult classic in the car world, especially for those who would rather drive sideways. Here in America, you'd know the 180SX as the 240SX. Ever heard of it? Now, I would be a thumb, more of a thumb than I already am now, if I weren't to even mention drifting. I would be attacked radically by the drifting community. The Nissan 180SX is essentially, well, perfect for drifting. It's rear-wheel drive, it's lightweight, weighing only 2,700 pounds from the factory, and with some weight reduction, you can easily get these things under 2,500 pounds. 2,500 pounds, or broadly the same weight as a Mini Cooper. It's cheap as well. Well, at first it was, but thanks to the drift tax, prices are kind of high. And at last, it's balanced. The chassis has the perfect wheelbase to initiate drifts, and with its 55 front, 45 rear weight distribution, it's nearly spot on balanced. Nearly every drifter has owned or driven one of these things, and 25 years after its release, it's still a championship car. The Sileighty was born out of the street racers in Japan who drove Nissan 180SXs but damaged the front ends. You can guess how that happened. But because the Nissan Silvia had front panels that were both lighter and cheaper than the 180 replacement parts, drifters used these parts instead. So a Japanese car shop called Kid's Heart, kind of an odd name, I know, ended up taking the inspiration from these racers and built and released 500 real official Sileighties. They were 180SXs built purposely for drifting and included performance mods like a new ECU, stiffer suspension, a new improved limited slip differential, and a bump of about 30 horsepower. Ooh, though the car was never recognized by the government as a Nissan manufactured vehicle. These cars were not originally intended to be race cars, and the majority of people who originally bought them were females who used these as just a regular coupe. But regardless, it's a damn good looking car, this thing. It's especially unique looking with its body kit. And this new paint shines beautifully on the 75,000 mile body. And the whole car has a beautiful stance and sits just right on those Koenig wheels. Under the hood is the only proper motor you can have in the S chassis, the SR20 DET engine. Besides maybe an LS V8, that is. This is an all-aluminum, 2-liter, straight 4-cylinder engine, and it's one of the most popular engines Nissan's ever built, propelling over 18 different Nissan and Infiniti vehicles throughout the world. It utilizes a single Garrett turbocharger to create 202 horsepower and 203 foot-pounds of torque. These engines are so popular because of their tunability. It's a very cost-effective platform to mod and can easily make 300 horsepower with simple bolt-ons. This one's pumping out a few more horsies thanks to a large HKS front-mount intercooler and breathing easier through a Kakimoto exhaust. That engine is mounted to this 5-speed manual transmission, really the only way you can have one of these cars. Now this interior isn't completely stock, you definitely have some tasteful mods done in here. You sit in this Bride racing seat, which is actually wide enough for me, as I found out in the last time I drove something with Bride racing seats I was too wide. And these are a fixed back racing seat. They're comfortable. They're not ideal for a road trip, but they'll keep you in place when you're around the twisty bits of the road, which is most likely what you're going to be doing with this car. You hold on to this aftermarket Nardi steering wheel, which is absolutely fantastic. It's aluminum in the middle, and it has these grade 10 and 2 notches. Also in front of the driver are the very clean and very easy to read gauges in their classic Nissan font. On top of that, you also have an aftermarket water temperature gauge. Now, for being a mid-90s sports car, you actually have quite a bit of amenities in here. The interior is pretty plain Jane and it's very simple, but you still get heat and air conditioning, you get power windows with auto up and down, and a rear wiper and defroster. It's even got power adjustable and power folding mirrors in here. You also have a Blitz boost controller mounted on the steering column, and of course right in the middle you have your giant handbrake. I have a feeling that's going to come in handy in this thing. Overall, the interior is extremely simple. I mean, the dash is just completely smooth. It's definitely not made out of the most exotic materials, but there's really no wicked hard plastic. You definitely aren't buying a 180 for its interior, that's for sure. But an added option, you also have a sunroof in here. You also have a back seat that fits 2 people. I'm not even going to try to climb in the back. It's not very big, but again, I don't think many people are going to be riding in the back seat of your Nissan 180SX. And at the very, very back, the Nissan 180SX is also a hatchback, so you have plenty of room for storage. Enough about the interior. Now it's time to harness up and take the 180SX out on the road and see what all the hype's about. Reminds me of my days of flying a stunt plane. Same setup. Like the blueprint of what a sports car should be. Front engine, rear wheel drive, lightweight, responsive and communicative chassis, and limitless modding capabilities. This thing is the whole package. Straight away, the first thing you notice about driving the 180SX is just how easy it is to control. And you also see why this engine is so sought after. This thing is fantastic. Pulls hard all the way to the 7,500 RPM redline. That might be because this is a smaller turbocharged engine, but still, the minute you touch that throttle, it's ready to go, it's off. I like that. It feels like it's making well over 200 horsepower, but that's just me. That engine makes some pretty good noises for only being a 4-cylinder. So does the turbo, the blow-off. Both are very vocal in this engine. Sounds good. This thing is incredibly easy to drive. It's so simple. All the controls are so lightly weighted, the clutch pedal, the gas. But the throttle has a good feel to it, has a good resistance. I like that. You know exactly where you're positioning the throttle. The pedals are a little bit close together for my big feet, but I'm sure they didn't make this pedal box for size 14 American Jake. The gearbox is a bit loose. That could be because it's from 1994. But regardless, I'm in love with the whole setup. Shifts are just the smoothest thing. Anybody can drive this thing smoothly. Downshifts are impeccable. You just flick it into gear and it goes. Burst of throttle and it's there. It's very, very easy. There's not a single hesitation when you downshift. It's just instant. What it is about these Japanese cars, but they're so nimble. This thing just glides around corners, and the steering is super sharp, super accurate. You just point it and it's in. The turn-in's incredible. You can tell straight away this chassis wants to oversteer first, and that's a good thing. That's better than understeer. This thing is extremely sharp. I just can't believe how much power I'm getting out of this 2-liter. For being a small turbocharged engine, I don't see how this thing is making so much power so quickly. Usually in a small turbocharged engine, if you're in the wrong gear, you're Now the suspension isn't the smoothest in the world in this by any means. I mean, it's not back-breakingly stiff, but if you hit a bump or a pothole, you feel it. You really feel it. I think if this had a little more of a comfortable seat, it wouldn't be that bad. It's kind of amplifying the bumps when you hit it. But it's holding me in extremely well in these sharp corners, so I really can't complain about that. And for being such a super sporty car, I mean, it's livable. I mean, if this seat wasn't fixed so close to the steering wheel, it seems like it could go back far enough so I'd have plenty of room. But the visibility is extremely well for a sports car. I mean, you have that giant rear hatch. You've got this big windshield, a nice view over the hood. This thing can turn on a dime too. You can nearly pull a U-turn in the middle of the road. How does this thing only have 200 horsepower? There's no way. It handles absolutely fantastic, this thing. When they say these things are well balanced, they aren't kidding. This is incredible. This thing's got a superb motor, an awesome chassis. This is definitely one of the best cars Nissan's ever built. Now I know why everybody loves these things. So I want to thank you all very much for watching. Be sure to check out Northeast Auto Imports. I'll include links down in the description below for his social media and also for the listing for this car. See you guys in the next one. Happy motoring.